Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is about a stalker. Not specifically about somebody stalking me, but about somebody stalking my friend, and kind of me. I guess me and my friend were both getting stalked, technically. So this story time takes place 6 months ago, okay? Now, I had this friend. Let's just call this friend Jessica, okay? Now, Jessica was dating this guy for like 2 years, and they had just recently broke up because he was super, super creepy and toxic. Like, when they would get into arguments, he would just show up to her house unannounced and like argue with her at her front door. And like sometimes he'd just pull up out front of her house after they got into a fight, and he'd just sit in her driveway and wait for her to come out. Like, he was just really creepy, alright? So they had finally broken up, and she texted me and asked me for help. She was like, look, I know he's gonna do something weird. I'm nervous. Like, can you please come stay a couple days in my house? I was like, sure, why not? Like, this is one of my good friends. I don't want her feeling unsafe, especially in her own home. Now, she didn't live by herself. She lived with her mom, but she still wanted somebody else there as well, just so she could feel more safe and, have that extra help if she needed it. So I go over there, and literally on day one, her ex-boyfriend pulls up to the house, and he knocks on the door, and me and her answer it, and he starts freaking out. He's like, who is this? You already replaced me with some guy? Like, who is this? Who the fuck are you, bro? And he's yelling at me, and he's cursing, and he's questioning her, and all this stuff. And he's like, just talk to me. Jessica, just talk to me. And she's like, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. And she shuts the door, and he starts pounding on the door with his fist, trying to get her to open it again. And finally, after like 10 minutes of him just pounding on the door, he gave up and left. And I thought that was the end of it, okay? Like, I really thought, like, there's no way he's going to come back. Like, he clearly got the point. She does not want to date anymore. But sadly, that was not the end of it, okay? Because later that night, I got a random friend request on Facebook from this account with no photo. And I knew it was him just because it was just created. I could tell. Like, it had nothing on it. So I added the account, and of course, he messaged me. And he's like, leave my fucking girlfriend alone, bro. Like, I don't know who you are, who you think you are, but she loves somebody else, man. And I was like, okay, dude, first of all, it's your ex-girlfriend. Stop calling her your girlfriend. Second of all, I've been one of her good friends for years. Me and you literally met at a party one time, and you said, hey, nice to meet you, Austin. So if you could, just please take your insecure self somewhere else and leave both of us alone. And he wouldn't stop. He kept messaging me all night, asking me to talk, saying, are you dating her? Are you dating? Like, has she been cheating on me with you? And he was just so insecure. Like, even though I already told him that me and her have just been friends for years, he still kept being super insecure and messaging me about it, thinking that me and her were dating. So anyway, I ended up just blocking him because I wasn't going to waste any more time talking to this dude. And plus, me and her were just annoyed with him. So I block him, and me and her both agreed that that was like the best thing to do. And the next day comes along, and me and her leave the house while her mom was at work to go and get snacks at this corner store. So we go and get snacks. It takes like 30 minutes to do it. And when we come home to her house, the door is wide open, the front door. Now, at this point, me and her get pretty nervous because we don't know if it's her ex-boyfriend that broke into the house or a random person trying to rob the house. So I slowly approach the front door. She stands back. I poke my head in. I'm like, hey, is anyone in here? And I couldn't hear anything. And I'm like, all right, I think it's good. And me and her walk in, and nothing was rearranged in the main part of the house, like the living room and the kitchen. Everything was normal. And me and her go upstairs to her room, and the door's open, and she specifically closed her door before we left because she has a dog, and the dog's not allowed in her room while she's gone. So we go in her room, and things are rearranged. Like, everything that was on the dresser was on the floor, and one of the drawers was open, and the bed was all messy. Like, she made her bed before we left, so the bed was all messy, which was strange. So at this point, we are pretty much set on the fact that it's probably her boyfriend that broke in because her room was the only place that was messed with. Like, the living room was fine, the kitchen was fine, and that's where pretty much everything that has a lot of value is. So we assumed that it was probably her boyfriend, and she's pissed. Like, she's like, I can't believe he would do this. Like, I don't even know how he got in here. Because me and her locked the house up before we left. So the fact that he got the front door open was really, really concerning. So yeah, like I said, she was really, really mad, and she decided that she's going to call him on the phone and confront him about what he did. So she pulls out her phone, unblocks his number, and then calls it. And this is the part where things get a little bit creepy, okay? So she pulls out her phone, calls his number after unblocking it, and all of a sudden, we hear an iPhone ringing under the bed. Like, we hear the ringtone. And me and her both look at each other and are just both terrified because we realize that his phone is under the bed, which means he's probably under the bed laying down. So the first thing I could think of was to run into the other room, really quick. I ran in there so fast, and I grabbed this signed baseball bat that her little brother had, and I ran back into the room. And I'm like, get the fuck out from under there. And sure enough, a hand appears from under the bed, and he starts pulling himself out. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you insane? And my friend Jessica starts screaming at him. She's like, you broke into my fucking house? I'm gonna call the police and get you arrested. And sure enough, she pulled out her phone and called the cops, and then called her mom. And they both got there pretty quick. And Jessica and her mom, being the really nice people that they are, decided to not press charges on him, which was very lucky for him. And he never showed his face around there ever again. He never showed up to her house again, never called her, never texted her again. And I think he got the point, because he could have went to jail. But yeah, guys, moral of the story is never be like Jessica's ex-boyfriend, because that's just not okay. Even though I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know that already, because you're smart people. But still, never be like him. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.
I can't play the sidelines, really sing these flaws of mine. Tea leaves help my thoughts align. I need to let go. Open doors like suicide, keeping me from living life. Tea leaves help my thoughts align. Think I'm too close.